Hello, my friends. It is day 232, and we're reading Habakkuk chapter 1 through Habakkuk chapter 3. But before we get into our recap today, I want to thank you for taking a moment to check out this video. Hopefully, you're finding the yearly Bible reading program to be incredibly helpful and a tremendous blessing as you study and read the Bible with us. If you have not yet accepted the invitation to be a part of this group, please check out the description box below, and there you'll find the link that will take you directly to the YouVersion Bible app, where you can join a number of people reading the Bible every single day and leaving feedback on the things they're learning. We'd love for you to be a part of the group, and we hope you are blessed by the interaction. All right, so we're in the book of Habakkuk, and Habakkuk is speaking around the time of 645 to 605 BC, and he's speaking during the final years of Judah's existence. They're about to be turned over to the Assyrian kingdom, or they're going to be impacted by the Assyrian kingdom. And then, of course, the Babylonians are coming. You can actually see this in chapter 1, where the Lord prophesies or says to Habakkuk, who is very troubled by the things that are happening. He essentially says that I'm raising up the Babylonians, a cruel and violent people. And this is in chapter 1, verse 6. And Habakkuk is very troubled by this because in his mind, he's thinking, how can you use people like them to judge people like us? And just think about the way that is framed. Obviously, in his mind, he thinks there is an element of superiority. How do we define that superiority? I guess it's up for speculation. But to him, it seems to be beyond reason for Judah to be chastised by such a people. The question, however, is if it is not them, that being the Babylonian Empire or the Assyrians, to judge them, who would be the right nation to judge them? Because surely he would not imagine that there was any other nation out there more righteous than they are and worthy of judging them. So it's almost as if Habakkuk might have imagined that judgment by this means would not be just, but rather he would assume that God will use some other means. And it is interesting to see just how God executes or implements his judgment by means of other people, because surely he could have found another way, but this is the way that he chooses to do it. And so the entire book of Habakkuk is a dialogue around that central thought. The fact that God has allowed this corrupt people to come in and just have their way with them, and it's perfectly within his will, his plan, or should I say his permission. The thing about this passage that is so interesting, however, is God is going to extend mercy. God is going to promise, that he will bring Judah out of this situation. But it is indeed an act of chastisement. God is doing this to get his people's attention. And if they were spiritual, or at least aware of the previous words of the prophet, then they would accept this and deal with this. Let me read this verse that I think was very, very, very encouraging. It had to be encouraging for Habakkuk. And it's in chapter 2, verse 19 through verse 20. He says, "What sorrow awaits you who say to wooden idols, 'Wake up and save us'? To speechless stone images you say, 'Rise up and teach us'? Can an idol tell you what to do? They may be overlaid with gold or silver, but they are lifeless, and they are lifeless inside." And then in verse 20, he says, "But the Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth be silent before him." Here, you can see Habakkuk, at least during this moment, he's imagining that the Lord is deeply present within Israel, and there's still some chance of them being preserved. And the reason I say that is because of what the temple represented. What he's doing is setting a contrast between the idols that are built with man's hands and the Lord, who cannot be seen but is very well present in this temple that is covenantally situated in Jerusalem. And what he's saying here is, as long as that temple is there, there's hope for us. Now, we are going to understand that temple is going to be taken away. But remember, when we're reading this is around the time where the Assyrians are coming in and trying to take over Judah. So he's pointing towards this temple, the Lord who dwells in this temple, as a means of distinction from the other idols, but also a means of saying our gods are not like their gods. Our God is not like their gods. Our God sits in the temple. He administers his justice from this temple. And as long as that is still here, we have a chance. That's essentially what a man like Habakkuk would have thought, considering the dire news that he's receiving during this circumstance. But it's a very powerful passage, very, very, very powerful book. And in verse 2 of chapter 3, this is what he says in his prayer. I've heard all about you, Lord. I am filled with awe by your amazing works. It seems as though that's exactly what everyone says whenever they question the Lord in this way. Job said it. We see it in other places. He says, in this time of our deep need, help us again as you did in the years gone by. And in your anger, remember your mercy. That's kind of all you can do in the circumstance like this. And so Habakkuk is set straight. He's brought clarity, and he petitioned the Lord out of that encounter. So what do you think about this? Let me hear your thoughts. Leave your comments in the comment box below. I think it'd be very helpful for us to talk about this very common experience of perceived injustice, which is simply God's way of bringing out, fulfilling his plan, and doing his work. So let me know what you think, and I think it'll stimulate some great conversation. Until next time, thank you for watching. Take care. God bless. And remember, live by the word.